Listen to me carefully. In 2026, the world rewards the lazy more than ever before. While fools grind 16 hours a day, the smart ones build systems that print money while they sleep. I didn't become the richest man on earth by working harder. I worked smarter. Today, I'll show you the laziest, most ruthless way to make money online in 2026. No fluff, no lies, only what actually works. Stay until the end, say, or stay poor. I, John D. Rockefeller, have lived a long life shaped by oil, by ledgers, and by the slow, unrelenting accumulation of capital. I have seen fortunes built and fortunes squandered. I have watched men with brilliant minds die poor, and men of modest intellect die rich. The difference between them was rarely talent. It was almost always discipline, patience, and a clear-eyed understanding of how money truly behaves. Now, you asked me about the laziest way to make money online in this year of 1926. Forgive me, I mean 2026. The century has shifted. The tools have changed. The markets have multiplied beyond anything I could have imagined when I sat in my office in Cleveland counting barrels. And yet, I tell you with complete certainty, the principles have not changed. Not one of them. The man who understands what I understood about Standard Oil understands what is required to make money in this modern digital world. The medium is new. The mathematics is ancient. Let me begin properly. Introduction. Why I take this question seriously. When a young man asks me about the laziest way to make money, I do not scoff at him as some of my contemporaries might. I do not lecture him about the virtues of toil for toil's sake. I have never believed in work for its own sake. I believed in work that produces compounding results. I believed in effort applied at the correct leverage point, so that 1 hour of my labor would continue to pay me for 10 years, 20 years, 50 years after I had performed it. That, gentlemen, is the true meaning of lazy in the proper sense, not the laziness of the sluggard who refuses to rise from his bed. That kind of laziness leads only to poverty and ruin. I am speaking of strategic laziness, the laziness of the man who refuses to do the same labor twice. The laziness of the man who builds a system once and is paid by it forever. The laziness of the capitalist who sets capital to work in his place. In my time, I built Standard Oil to do precisely this. I did not personally drill every well, refine every barrel, or load every rail car. I designed a structure. The structure earned for me whether I was at my desk in New York or walking in the gardens at Pocantico Hills. The structure did not require my presence to function. That is what every man who wishes to be wealthy must understand. You must build something that pays you while you sleep, while you eat, while you pray on Sunday, while you bury your parents. Money must work when you cannot. The Internet of 2026, as I understand it from those who have explained it to me, is the greatest leverage mechanism ever placed in the hands of ordinary men. In my day, to reach 1 million customers required railroads, warehouses, salesmen, telegraph offices, and capital that only a handful of men in America possessed. Today, a single man with a small machine on his desk can reach those million customers before breakfast. This is not a small thing. This is a revolution greater than the discovery of oil itself. And yet most men squander it. They use it for diversion, for foolishness, for arguing with strangers about matters that do not concern their pocketbooks. I shall now tell you, in considerable detail, how a sensible man should approach this question. The first principle: there is no truly lazy way, but there is a patient way. Let me dispense first with a falsehood. There is no scheme in this world by which money appears without effort, without thought, and without risk. Any man who tells you otherwise is selling you something, and what he is selling you is your own ruin. I made my fortune in oil, and I can tell you that even oil, which seemed to gush from the earth as if God himself were pouring it, required ferocious labor to extract, refine, transport, and sell. The oil did not pay me. My organization paid me, and the organization required years of careful construction. So when I speak of lazy methods of making money online, I mean methods where the work is front-loaded. You labor intensely for a period, 6 months, a year, 3 years, and then you reap for a long time afterward with greatly diminished effort. This is the only honest definition of lazy income, and it is the definition I shall use throughout this discourse. The men who fail at this do so because they want the reaping without the sowing. They want the harvest in October without having planted in April. Such men remain poor their entire lives, and they deserve to. The harvest belongs to the farmer who endured the planting. The second principle, assets versus activities. Hear me carefully on this distinction, for it is the most important thing I will tell you. There are 2 kinds of money-making in this world. The first kind is activity income. You perform a task, you are paid for that task, and when you stop performing, the money stops. The man who shovels coal, the lawyer who bills by the hour, the doctor who sees patients, all of these are activity earners. They may earn a great deal, but they cannot stop. The moment they stop, the income stops. The second kind is asset income. You build or acquire something, a refinery, a railroad share, a patent, a piece of land, and that thing produces income whether you attend to it daily or not. This is the income of the wealthy. This is the only income that compounds. This is the only income that frees a man from the necessity of his own labor. In the digital age of 2026, the assets available to ordinary men are extraordinary. A book that you write once and sell electronically forever. A piece of software that you commission once and license repeatedly. A channel of educational videos that you record once and that play to new audiences for decades. A website that ranks well in the search engines and draws visitors to advertisements every hour of every day. A course of instruction recorded once and sold 1,000 times. A list of subscribers cultivated once and marketed to indefinitely. Each of these is what I would call a digital wellhead. You drill it once, it pumps for years. The man who understands this distinction will never be poor. The man who does not understand it will labor until his bones give out, and then he will starve. I have seen this play out in 1,000 lives. The third principle, pick your field with cold calculation. When I entered the oil business, I did not enter it because I loved oil. I did not particularly care about oil. I entered it because I had calculated that illumination was a need that every household in America possessed, that whale oil was becoming scarce and expensive, that kerosene was the obvious replacement, and that the man who could produce kerosene at the lowest cost and distribute it most widely would dominate the market. The decision was made on paper, with figures, before I committed a single dollar. This is how a man must select his digital business, not by passion, not by what amuses him on a particular afternoon, by cold calculation. He must ask, what do people need? What will they pay for? Where is the supply inadequate? Where can I, with my particular advantages, build something that compounds? I would advise the modern young man to consider the following questions when choosing his lazy income vehicle. First, is the market large and growing? A small market, no matter how well one dominates it, will never produce a great fortune. I succeeded in oil because oil was needed by every man, woman, and child in the industrialized world. Choose a need, not a fancy. Second, can the asset be produced once and sold many times? If you must produce a new unit for every sale, you have not built an asset. You have built a job. A job is the opposite of what we are seeking. Third, can it scale without proportional increase in your labor? A book sold to one reader requires the same writing effort as a book sold to 1 million readers. A software program the same. A website the same. This is the magic of leverage. Pursue it. Fourth, can it be defended? In my Standard Oil days, I built defenses around my business. Through scale, through control of transportation, through superior efficiency, through long contracts. In the digital world, defenses come from search engine rankings, from established audiences, from accumulated reputation, from owned email lists, from technical expertise that competitors cannot quickly replicate. Build something that, once built, cannot easily be torn down. The fourth principle, the compounding of audience. Now I shall tell you something that took me years to understand fully, even in my own businesses. The greatest asset in commerce is not the product. It is the customer relationship. A man who has 10,000 loyal customers can sell them many products over many years. A man who has a single excellent product but no audience must struggle to sell each unit individually. In the digital world of 2026, this principle has been amplified beyond all measure. The man who builds an audience, readers, viewers, listeners, subscribers, has built the most valuable asset available to ordinary men. Once he has the audience, he may sell them books, courses, services, recommendations, and endorsements. Each of these revenue streams flows from the same underlying asset, trust accumulated over time. I tell young men, spend your first years building the audience, not the product. The product is easy, the audience is hard, and once you have the audience, the products will flow naturally because you will know exactly what they want. They will tell you if you listen. This is, in my judgment, the truly lazy method. Build a body of useful information, written articles, recorded videos, spoken broadcasts, that draws to you, over years, a community of people who trust your judgment, then offer them occasionally and judiciously things they may purchase. The income will be substantial, and it will continue long after you have ceased actively building. My own story, the ledger, and the discipline. Let me tell you something about my early days, because I believe it illustrates the principle of patient compounding labor better than any abstract lecture. When I was 16 years old, I took my first position as an assistant bookkeeper at a small produce commission firm in Cleveland called Hewitt & Tuttle. I earned the magnificent sum of 50 cents a day. I was, by any measure, a poor young man. My father was an unreliable scoundrel who appeared and vanished from our lives as it suited him. My mother was a pious woman of iron discipline who taught me to keep my accounts. I kept a small book, Ledger A I called it, in which I recorded every penny that entered or left my possession. Every penny. The cost of a meal, the price of a pair of gloves, the amount given in church on Sunday. I have that ledger still, or I had it until recent years. I'm told it is preserved in some museum now. Why does this matter to your question about lazy online income? Because the discipline I built with that ledger as a 16-year-old boy is the same discipline that allowed me, 20 years later, to identify which refineries were profitable and which were leaking money. The man who cannot account for his own pennies cannot account for millions. The man who cannot manage a small income cannot manage a large one. I tell you this, before you concern yourself with how to make money online, master the management of whatever money you currently have. If you cannot save 50 cents from every dollar you earn now, you will not save 50,000 from every 100,000. The percentages remain the same. The character remains the same. Wealth amplifies the man you already are. If you are profligate with little, you will be ruinous with much. When I began saving from my 50 cents a day, I lent small sums at interest to acquaintances. I learned the principle of capital working while I slept. By the time I was 19, I had saved enough to enter into my first partnership, a produce commission business with a man named Maurice Clark. We invested $4,000 between us. By 24, I had used the profits from that business to enter the oil refining trade. By 31, I had organized Standard Oil. By 40, I controlled approximately 90% of American oil refining. Each step was funded by the disciplined retention of profits from the previous step. I did not borrow recklessly. I did not speculate on my own wisdom. I built one position, secured it, and then used its earnings to build the next. This is the only method that works reliably. Anyone who tells you otherwise is either a fool or a confidence man. The modern application, specific vehicles for lazy income. Now let me come to the practical matter. What, in 2026, are the actual mechanisms by which a sensible man can build the kind of compounding, low-maintenance income I have described? Let me enumerate them, for I have studied this matter and listened carefully to those who explained the modern landscape to me. The first vehicle is the written word at scale. A man who can write clearly on a subject of value may publish a book electronically and sell it across the entire English-speaking world without ever printing a physical copy. The fixed cost is his time in writing. The variable cost approaches zero. If the book is well positioned in the market and addresses a true need, instruction in a profession, guidance through a difficulty, expertise in a craft, it may sell for a decade or more with negligible additional effort. I would consider this one of the most genuinely lazy forms of income available to a literate man. One book, written competently, can produce a steady stream for many years. A series of such books can produce a respectable income. The second vehicle is the recorded course or instruction. The same principle applies. A man who possesses genuine expertise in some matter, accounting, programming, photography, cooking, language instruction, business strategy, may record his teaching once and sell it indefinitely. The platforms of 2026 handle the distribution and payment with no further attention required. I have heard of men earning substantial sums from courses they recorded years prior and have not modified since. The third vehicle is the content channel, what they call YouTube channels, podcasts, written publications. Here a man builds an audience over time, monetizing through advertising, sponsorships, and his own products. The early years are difficult. The later years are extraordinarily leveraged. A successful channel becomes an asset that produces income whether the creator publishes new material or not, though continued publication generally improves results. The fourth vehicle is the affiliate arrangement. A man recommends products to his audience and receives a commission on sales. Once the recommendation is published, in an article, a video, a book, it may generate commissions for years. I confess I had no equivalent to this in my time, but the principle is sound. It is, in essence, the commission structure of the salesman, but with the salesman's pitch recorded once and delivered automatically forever. The fifth vehicle is digital products of the small kind, templates, designs, photographs, fonts, applications, plugins. Each requires a one-time creation and may be sold indefinitely. I am told that some men in 2026 have built quite substantial incomes from the sale of small software tools that took them weeks to build and have generated income for years. The sixth vehicle, and one I particularly approve of, is the dividend portfolio. This is not new, of course. I myself drew enormous dividends from Standard Oil and its successor companies. But the modern man with even modest savings may purchase fractional interests in dividend-paying enterprises through these electronic exchanges and receive quarterly payments without any labor whatsoever. This is, perhaps, the laziest income of all, though it requires capital to begin. The seventh vehicle is the rental of digital property, websites, domains, applications, to other businesses. A man who builds a useful tool may license it. A man who acquires a well-positioned website may sell advertising on it. These are the digital equivalents of owning real estate, and the principles are the same. Buy or build something well located, maintain it minimally, collect rent. I do not endorse any one of these above the others. The correct choice depends on the man, his temperament, his existing knowledge, and his available capital. But all of them share the essential characteristic: front-loaded labor, back-loaded reward, and minimal ongoing effort once established, the errors that destroy most men. I would be a poor counselor if I did not warn you of the errors I have observed destroy the majority of men who attempt these things. The first error is the pursuit of novelty over fundamentals. Every season, some new fashion arises in the digital world, some new platform, some new method, some new shortcut. The men who chase each new fashion accomplish nothing because they never persist long enough on any single path to reap the compounding rewards. I built Standard Oil over 40 years on essentially the same business model. I did not abandon refining for some other industry every 6 months because someone told me there was easier money elsewhere. Pick your path, walk it for 5 years before you judge it. The second error is the failure to reinvest. A man who earns his first $1,000 from his digital business and immediately spends it on luxuries has destroyed his future. The early earnings of any business must be reinvested into growth. I lived modestly for decades, even after I was widely understood to be the wealthiest man in America. I did not buy mansions until my businesses no longer required the capital. The man who consumes his seed corn cannot plant in the spring. The third error is the failure to focus. I have seen men with 7 different income streams, none of which produces meaningful income because they cannot give any single one the attention it requires to succeed. One excellent business is worth 10 mediocre ones. Build one to its peak before you begin another. This was my method in oil, total dominance of one industry before any diversification. The fourth error is the underestimation of time. Every young man imagines he will be rich in 2 years. I tell you plainly, no honest digital business produces meaningful wealth in 2 years. 5 years is more realistic, 10 years is reasonable. The compounding I speak of is exponential, but exponentials are slow at the beginning. The man who quits in year 2 never sees the curve bend upward in year 7. Patience is not optional. Patience is the entire game. The fifth error is the neglect of expenses. I cannot stress this enough because it was the foundation of my own success in oil. Standard Oil dominated because I was obsessed with reducing the cost of every barrel by even 1/10 of 1 cent. We made our own barrels, we owned our own pipelines, we negotiated rebates from the railroads, we extracted byproducts that competitors threw away, every penny of unnecessary expense eliminated. The same applies to a digital business. The man who pays for 100 subscriptions and tools he barely uses is bleeding his profits. Watch every dollar going out as carefully as every dollar coming in. This is not stinginess, this is competence. On the psychology of money, allow me to speak now of something more important than any of the specific vehicles I have described. I refer to the psychology of the man who would be wealthy. I have observed in my long life that wealth is principally a matter of character. The vehicles change, the industries change, the technologies change. The character of the wealthy man does not change. The wealthy man is patient. He is willing to wait years for results that the impatient man demands in months. The wealthy man is disciplined with expenses. He understands that wealth is what one keeps, not what one earns. A man earning $10,000 a year who saves $2,000 will outpace a man earning $100,000 who saves nothing. I have witnessed this 1,000 times. The wealthy man thinks in systems. He does not ask, how can I earn money today? He asks, what can I build that will earn money for me for the next 20 years? The wealthy man is unmoved by the opinions of the crowd. The crowd was certain Standard Oil would fail. The crowd hated me. The crowd called me names that I shall not repeat. I did not care. The figures in my ledger were my counsel, not the editorial pages of newspapers. In 2026, I imagine the crowd is even louder and more confident in its opinions broadcast through these electronic devices. Pay it no mind. Listen to your own results. The wealthy man is a student of his own business. I knew the cost of every component of refining oil. I knew the prices in every market. I knew the schedules of every railroad. The man who builds a digital business must know it just as intimately. Where do his readers come from? What do they read? What converts and what does not? What is the cost of acquiring a customer and what is the lifetime value? These are the figures that make or destroy the enterprise. The wealthy man, finally, is generous in due season. I gave away more than $500 million in my lifetime. Some claim it was closer to $1 billion. I funded universities, medical research, public health campaigns. I did not do this for praise. I did it because I understood, even in middle age, that the purpose of wealth is not consumption, but contribution. A man who accumulates and never gives is a miser, and a miser is not wealthy in any meaningful sense. He is merely a hoarder. Build wealth, but build it with the intention of putting it to great purposes. Application in the year 2026. So how should the modern young man sitting at his small machine in his apartment apply all of this? First, he should select a single field in which he possesses or can develop genuine expertise, not a fashionable field, a field with durable demand, personal finance, practical instruction in a useful skill, health and discipline, professional development. The classic subjects do not go out of style. Second, he should commit to producing material in that field consistently for at least 3 years before judging the results. Articles, videos, audio recordings, whatever medium suits his temperament. 3 years of consistent production builds an asset that 2 years and 11 months cannot match. The final months of consistency are when the compounding begins. Third, he should build mechanisms for capturing his audience, what they call email lists in 2026. The audience that lives only on someone else's platform may be taken from him at any moment. The audience he owns directly is his property forever. Fourth, he should reinvest his early earnings into improving his production, better equipment, better tools, perhaps eventually hired assistants for the routine matters that consume his time without compounding. Fifth, he should diversify only after his first vehicle is fully mature. Then he may add a second product, a second channel, a second income stream, slowly, methodically. As I added natural gas and pipelines and shipping to oil refining, only after refining was secured. Sixth, he should track everything, his income, his expenses, the sources of his customers, the performance of each piece of work. Without measurement, there is no improvement, and without improvement, there is no compounding. Seventh, he should live below his means while building. The temptation to display new wealth is the ruin of more aspiring rich men than any market downturn. I lived in modest houses when I could have lived in palaces. I did not buy my Pocantico estate until I was already extraordinarily wealthy, and the purchase represented a small fraction of my holdings. Imitate this restraint. The world will laugh at you for it. Then, in time, the world will marvel at you. The hard conclusion. Now hear me, and hear me well, for I shall be direct with you as I have been direct in every business dealing of my life. There is no truly lazy way to make money online in 2026. There never was a lazy way to make money in oil in 1870. There never will be a lazy way to make money in any honest field, in any era. The man who tells you otherwise is selling you a fraud, and the price of the fraud is your time, which is the only resource you cannot replace. But there is a patient way. There is a leveraged way. There is a way to do work once and be paid for it many times over many years.
The market is volatile.
This is what I built with Standard Oil.
Is that
this is what is available to the modern man through the digital instruments of
clear.
2026. In forms more accessible to ordinary people
This prosperity
than
talk
anything
is
that
all over the
existed in my
papers.
time.
Indeed, the market's
cost
on
of
the
this way
rise.
is not money.
Extra,
The cost is
prosperity
patience. The
for
cost
all.
is discipline.
I'll take one of those.
The cost is the
Let's get one
willingness
and
to
read
do
the
work in
details.
year one that will
Check
not
these
pay
figures.
until year three.
They align
The
with the
cost is the
specs.
refusal
I'll
to
confirm and
abandon
call
the path
back.
when it is
Good.
difficult.
Proceed.
The cost is the contempt of friends and family who do not understand what you are building. The cost is the management of every penny while your peers spend freely. The cost is the steady, unglamorous, unrewarded labor of building an asset. Most men will not pay this cost. That is precisely why most men remain poor. The opportunity is available to all. The willingness is rare. If you are willing, if you will commit to building one digital asset over the next 5 years with the same patience and discipline I brought to building Standard Oil over 40, you will, I assure you, with the certainty of long observation, find yourself wealthier than 90% of the men around you. Not wealthy as I became wealthy. Few men have such fortune, but wealthy enough that money is no longer your master. Wealthy enough that your time is your own. Wealthy enough that you may serve causes greater than yourself. This is the only laziness worth pursuing, the laziness that comes after the labor, the leisure that is purchased with discipline, the freedom that is built slowly by the man who refuses to be diverted, refuses to be impatient, and refuses to consume what he has not yet earned. I have lived 97 years. I have watched fortunes rise and fall. I have buried friends who died wealthy and friends who died destitute. I have given away more money than most men ever see. And the principle has never changed. The man who builds patiently, manages carefully, and reinvests diligently will, in the end, possess what he requires and more. The man who chases shortcuts will, in the end, possess nothing but his regrets. Choose your path, walk it, do not turn back, and in 20 years write to me, or rather look back on this hour you have spent reading my counsel, and you will find that every word was true. Now go, build something that pays you while you sleep. That is the only laziness a serious man should ever pursue. I, John D. Rockefeller, have spoken.